Question: what do you get when you graft a pillbox on top of a Panzer 38T light tank? The answer? Top heavy. Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at the German lineup at battle ranking 1.3. The pickings are a little slim, but we're going to start out with the Panzer II F. It's the big brother of the Panzer II C that you start out with as a reserve tank. Now the only difference between the Panzer C reserve tank and this one is 5mm of armor on the side. It's a little bit tougher. That's it. Now granted, it's still effective at hunting down enemy tanks that it can deal with and doing it quickly. It's also still very, very good at capturing bases or defending them. Just don't expect that extra 5mm of armor to do much to protect you. There are some drawbacks to that 5mm of armor. Number one, you only get 2 spawns instead of 3 like you did as a reserve tank. And you're matched up against a little bit tougher crowd. Even against this BT-7, the Panzer II F struggles to penetrate its armor. Not a good situation. I probably should have avoided this guy. Still, it's a fairly mobile tank, and I was able to damage this fella before I closed with him, so he's not able to do me any harm. Well, not directly anyway. We're not going to spend a great deal of time on this tank, since we've already covered its little brother and they're virtually identical. Just keep in mind that it's fast moving but thinly armored, and just about anything on the battlefield can really mess up your day, including the occasional bomb. Which manages to set me on fire. Thank God for fire extinguishers. But it messed me up bad. And when you get torn up as a fast-moving tank, well, bad things happen. Well, let's not dwell on that. Instead, let's take a little closer peek at the HE-112 V-5. The old Hinkel's 112. It's a kind of an interesting fighter. At this stage in its development, it was an open cockpit fighter still. This particular camouflage scheme was Japanese. Germany sent one to Japan for them to study. They didn't much like the airplane, except they kind of enjoyed the engine. But other than that, they passed on it and went with their own designs. Still, it's a good airplane. It's very agile. It gave the BF-109s a run for their money. Germany might have gone for this plane, except, in a big way, except for the fact that they felt that it was very nearly reaching the end of its development cycle by the time they put them into heavy-duty trials. The BF-109, on the other hand, was at the beginning of its life expectancy and had a long way that it could be developed, and they were aware of that fact. And that pretty much sounded the death note for this particular aircraft design. Still, it's fairly good at boom and zoom, and it doesn't do a bad job as a turn fighter too. With that inverted gull wing, perhaps that helps. Anyway, it can hold its own against the fighters you tend to find at battle ranking 1.3. A lot of times you're going to be facing reserve aircraft. which for the Russians consists of very agile little biplanes that sometimes are inordinately tough. This guy's been critical and he's still not going down. Best to make sure. And finally, there he goes. But R1, you ask? What can this little plane do against something a little bit more advanced, like, say, Lag 311, something that's battle ranking 2.0? Well, it's not a shining star in the sky, but it manages to hold its own, which frankly kind of surprised me. I'm chasing down this Lag 311 as he's leaving the battlefield. He's already done a lot of damage to our team. And I think he's heading back to his base. But to get to him, I have to go through a hailstorm of AAA. I managed to make it through. But I'm having difficulty catching him, and I notice another Lag 311 down low, slowly getting closer, coming in my direction. I still want to stay on my primary target, but, well, that guy's closing fast. So we end up in a head-on, and with the small caliber machine guns versus his rockets, I was lucky to survive that. Still, I did damage to him, and he goes into a dive and doesn't recover. Now I can go back to my original target. Where'd he go anyway? Oh! There he is, on my tail. This guy's pretty cagey. As soon as I engaged, he whipped around and got back in behind me. I'm not in a good position. He tore me up pretty bad on that first pass. He's not behind me, and that means he's above me, and he's already coming in for another boom and zoom attack. Only one thing to do: cut inside, barrel roll, and come up on his tail. But he's faster than me, and he's pulling away. I do manage to do a little bit more damage with my twin 7.92mm machine guns, but it's not enough to take him down. This kind of becomes the pattern. He pulls away and climbs. I managed to do a little more damage on 2 or 3 occasions. Eventually, I think it's starting to get to him, and he knows he can't get to his base. You know, he's probably out of ammunition by now. So he dives under me instead of at me this time. And that's when I realized he's going for a teammate of mine instead, a Stuka, and decides to sacrifice his plane in a ram. Okay, I can't say as I blame him, but I was a little disappointed. It was a good fight. We're going to throw in a couple of premium craft in here as well, namely this Marcolin's CR.42CN. It's a premium airplane, still at battle ranking 1.3. There just isn't much to pick from at this level, guys. So if you decide to pick up this plane, hopefully this will be of value to you. As biplanes go, it's probably one of the better ones available. And it can definitely hold its own against the biplanes that you're likely to face at this level. This was kind of weird. I have no idea what this fellow is doing. He's heading to our base. I'm assuming that he's looking for aircraft on the ground, hoping to strafe them. When he doesn't find any, I think he actually takes a strafing run on the base itself. He probably should have been paying attention to his 6. Still, he tries to cut throttle and get fancy, but I'm able to stay with him. We're going to see how this plane does against some more advanced opponents as well. But we're going to do it by taking a look at pretty much a full battle. It's going to round out our video. I'm going to have this premium aircraft and another premium ground unit included, just to round out the lineup. As I said, there's just not a lot available at Battle Ranking 1.3. I can tell already this is going to get rough. I've spotted multiple I-16s and I-15. There's just a lot of stuff in the sky over here to deal with. I'm not alone, but it's going to be a little dicey. I make up my mind early on that I'm going to target one of the I-16s. Put this thing through its paces. It's a very agile little fighter, and it's pretty quick. But I think I can do okay. This fella seems preoccupied, so I make him my primary target. And I almost overshoot him. I have to barrel roll and get back behind him. But it pays off. Of course, I'm going to stay with him for just a little bit longer and try and put another burst or two into him, because he is Russian, and they're notoriously tough. As it turns out, that was kind of a mistake. As I look back over my shoulder to see him go down, I realize that his buddy and another I-16 is already on my tail. And now I'm in a bad situation. He's as agile as I am, probably a little faster, just as well armed, if not better. Russian machine guns are very difficult to deal with. And I try to go low, scissor back and forth, but he's just not having it. I cannot shake this guy. Still, I got one of them. Nevertheless, Footman Sir 86, I'm going to be looking for you. I'm going to bring out my secret weapon. Well, that's not much of a secret, and to be perfectly honest, it's not much of a weapon. But it has its moments. I'm going to select the Sd.Kfz 140/1. It's an Armored Reconnaissance Vehicle based on the Panzer XXXVIII T chassis. Basically, it takes the gun from the Panzer II and puts it on this chassis, an open-topped one with the little inverted basket over the top. If memory serves, that basket was there to keep grenades from getting tossed in. Oh, look! Yes, that's Footman Sir, flying right in front of me, and I cannot resist taking some pot shots at him. As a matter of fact, in my eagerness to get a little revenge, I have committed myself to this. I am out in the middle of a beach with no cover anywhere, and his guns can kill me easily. I better make this count. And I do. Revenge is so sweet sometimes. That just made me very happy. Now, I'd like to say that air kills like that are the norm for this vehicle, but I really can't, in all honesty. It has an excellent turret elevation, going up to 70 degrees, which is better than, well, just about anything else out there. So it's definitely designed for dealing with aircraft. Its turret is a hair faster than the Panzer II's, but I have a hard time bringing this gun to bear, and that limited clip that it has, remember it's the exact same gun as the Panzer II, the limited clip makes it difficult sometimes to bring your weapon to bear unless you get an ideal situation like I just had. This thing is a little bit better armored than a Panzer II. It's got 50 millimeters on the front of the hull, which is about 15 more millimeters than the Panzer II, and a little bit more the rest of the way around. The turret has a bit more armor to it than the Panzer II does as well, but that adds some weight to it. They've given it an engine with a little bit more horsepower to compensate. Theoretically, this thing can go faster than the Panzer IIs can, up to, I think it's 58 kilometers per hour. To be perfectly honest with you, I have never seen it go that fast. It might be approaching it if you're going down a big hill, but on the straight run, it takes a while to get that extra bolt going. It's weighing in, I think, a ton or two heavier than the Panzer II does. Still, once you get some momentum up, you can cover some ground. The main thing you have to watch, though, is the faster you go, the more likely you are to tip over. As you saw in the little clip at the beginning of this video, it doesn't take a lot. Now granted, I was on a fairly steep incline, and I'll grant you that, but, well, I have to watch it on these sand dunes. I've hit them at a weird angle and just flipped right over before you have a chance to react. It's something you really have to be aware of with this vehicle. I don't know if it's the extra armor, or if it's the fact that the tank itself is up a little higher in its center of gravity. Whatever it is, it's definitely easy to flip. And its configuration has one other drawback that you should probably be aware of if you ever decide you want to purchase this little guy. While it has the excellent upward elevation of its gun depression is subpar. You get a maximum of 4 degrees downward depression, which means you have difficulty ever getting into any kind of a hull down position that's effective. You're always better off if you can get your nose down a little bit so you can bring that gun to bear when you get in situations where you have to face ground targets. And that's the situation I'm in right now. So I'm going to back up this hill and keep that ridge between me and most of those guys. I've also called in artillery, which thank God it has that, to keep those guys on my right flank busy for a while I take some shots. And managed to rack up a couple of kills. But as I'm looking for that second kill, I realize that basically I have just mooned the enemy team that is taking that base behind me, and almost succeeded in flipping my tank on this slope. I could feel it starting to tip. That was pretty close. So I horse it around, and I climb the slope. Only problem is, once I get up here, I've got that problem with gun depression again. I have a heck of a time trying to line this thing up on a target down there. I'm just unable to bring the gun down to bear. So I have to edge a little further over the ridge, and I realize immediately that I'm under fire, being strafed. All hell breaks loose. But I decide to do what I can. And much to my delight, there's the fellow that shot me down earlier. Dead again. My glee is short-lived, though, because now I'm in a really bad spot. I've got very little cover. I try and call in artillery to cover me, but it's too late. Still, kind of enjoyed that. I'm going to jump into another 140 here, but to be perfectly honest, I'm not able to influence the outcome of this battle. I'm too far away. I can't get off this beach in time to do much of anything. I end up getting hit from behind and damaged as I'm trying to get into the jungle. I make a mistake here too. In just a minute, a target's going to pop up in front of me, and I try and call in artillery. And my artillery's not ready to go yet. So that was a bit of a mistake. I wish I could have hit this guy though. Well, anyway, that is the lineup for the German nationality at battle ranking 1.3. It's a little thin. You got your Panzer II F, the Henkels 112. There is a Henkels 51, but we've touched on most of those variants before. I think I have a video on the 51 variant that can actually carry 6 50-kilogram bombs, or I'm sorry, 6 10-kilogram bombs. Anyway, they're fairly worthless. Yeah, they're 10 kilogram. And ow, open top tanks are bad when there are bombers in the air. Anyway, if you decide you enjoy low-tier battles, you may have to invest in a couple of premium, well, aircraft and tanks to round out your lineup. But if not, then do what everybody else does and zip by this one as quick as you can. Good hunting, folks.